to Season 5 of the Hey Girl podcast with your host and my mom, Bethany Needham. This season, we get to hear from some incredible new guests, and we're bringing back some of our faves. Each guest will share their story of running their race in their place, and we hope they inspire you to do the same. If you want more information or to connect with my mom, go follow our new Instagram at HeyGirlGram, friend us on Facebook at HeyGirlPod, or even better, join our brand new Patreon to get bonus materials, hang with my mom, and you get to help Hey Girl continue to grow and reach more people. That's pretty cool. All right, time to grab that seltzer and maybe a tissue box just in case. Here's my mom.
Hey girls, and welcome to another episode of the Hey Girl podcast. This week, I get to introduce you to a real life friend, Claudia Govoni. Y'all, I had so much fun sitting down with Claudia, getting to hear her story. It is such a treat when I get the opportunity to sit and interview people that I know, whether it's my inner circle of friends or somebody that I've just met along the way, but to really intentionally sit down and listen to their stories. And today was one of those days with Claudia. We had fun, we laughed, we got real. I think at one point, if it didn't get edited out, she definitely threatened my life earlier on. So that's like real friendship. But for real, it was a good time. And we talk about marriage in the midst of all this. I don't know. I don't feel like we have a whole lot of these hard marriage conversations, but today it was a good one. And so I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Can't wait to introduce you to Claudia. So without further ado, get ready, grab your seltzer, and meet my friend, Claudia Govoni. Claudia, I am beyond pumped to sit down and hear your story. One of the things that's kind of cool when this happens, where I get to sit down with people I know in real life, it's such a gift. I don't think that we often take time to listen to people's stories, to you meet somebody later in life and maybe bits and pieces, but to actually sit down and intentionally be like, hey, tell me your story. I want to know where you came from. What has God done in your life? And so this is a really special treat for me. So thank you on this Thanksgiving week that you're willing to give up time to sit down and share your story with us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So for those people who may not know your name, or maybe they don't know you, why don't you just take some time and introduce yourself to our listeners? Who is Claudia?
Well, my name's Claudia, and I live in New Hampshire, grew up here, lived here my whole life. I am married of 13 years. We've been together for 16, and I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. And I am a stay-at-home mom. And this is my first year homeschooling with all the mad chaos of life. So that I got that going for me too.
I was going to say, you are a homeschool stay-at-home mom. That's legit.
Yes, it's a lot, but it's
They
good.
can't see me, but I'm bowing to you right now. I love it. Okay, so we are unashamedly a girls podcast, and I always love to hear the story of how did you meet your spouse? What started? Where did your relationship begin?
All right, so I always tell people I met my spouse through God.
I love it.
Yes, which it's totally true, but it's a little bit of a joke for us because I actually met him through my mother-in-law. So, I don't like to give her all the credit.
So your mother-in-law is God, is what I'm.
His mom worked at the bank that I used to go to. And so I always went in and she used to say, you have to meet my son. I said, yeah, every mother says their kid's cute. So I wasn't buying it. And then there was one day he walked in and it was like a quick, I turned around, I was like, oh my gosh, he's really cute. I was like, I need to hurry up and leave. I was panicked. So I gave him a day. I'd given her my number to give to him. I gave him a day. And then I called him and asked him if he wanted to go out.
Yes, you go, Claudia.
Yes. So yeah, and the rest is history.
Oh my goodness. I actually really enjoy those stories where the girl's like, you know what? I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, it was great. And when we met, it was awesome. My parents didn't want me to date him at the time. I mean, here comes my husband. When we were dating, he had piercings, tattoos, went tanning, shaved his arms, yeah, he's from Massachusetts.
I love it.
Yeah, that was just his thing. And he also was not a Christian. He believed in God, but didn't follow Christ at all. And I grew up going to church my whole life. So for me, it was important to at least that he would come with me to church and was willing. I didn't want to be alone. And, I always thought about if this did get more serious, you didn't want, unevenly yoked marriage and stuff. So he was totally willing to come to church. And I'm pretty sure we were engaged or close to it, but he accepted Christ in his life during that time.
Oh, wow. Was it through going to church with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. So tell me then, I know we talked a little off mic, but your marriage, like any marriage that that I know, it's not necessarily been all rainbows and unicorns and sunshine and roses. You've walked.
We have glitter.
Oh, well then, all you need in life is glitter. Tell me a little bit about your journey just in your marriage, and even like he's accepted Christ, but you're also marrying a very young believer. So I would think that there'd be a journey in that as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I grew up in church, but, nobody can see. I got like little quote marks. Nothing was really talked about in my house. My grandparents were a huge part of my faith and upbringing in Christ. Super, super strong, faithful servants of Christ. So when we got engaged and stuff and got married, I remember we were trying to find a church that would marry us. And it was really difficult because we didn't have a home church per se. So we found one church that said, yep, we'll marry you, just pay the fee. And I said, okay. And the pastor that married us, he asked just to meet with us at least once before. And I was like, okay, cool. So we sat down and he asked us, is this your first marriage? I'm looking at him like, yes. Do you guys live together? No. Do you have kids? No. And do you guys both live at home still? Yeah. And he just replied with, I wish I could bottle you guys up and put you on my desk. And I thought, woo, we are good to go.
We got the seal of approval.
Yeah, this is going to be a walk in the park. We are so good. So I think it was like, just like anybody else, it's like 6 months into our marriage, everything hits the fan and, everything kind of fell apart, but we, worked through it and, just kept on trucking along. I feel like it was probably, I think it was 4.5 years ago was when our marriage really finally hit a rock bottom. Just like any marriage, as much as there's lows, then there's the high moments. We had our kids and, you go away and everything is great. And it's funny now because I talk to people and they always say, I would have never known you guys had any issues. And I said, yeah, that whole fake it till you make it thing. That was us. We would smile in front of everybody, pretend everything was fine. But the minute we got into the vehicle or got home, it was like, goodbye, get out of my face. I'm done looking at you. Especially hard with kids, like not to have, a ton of communication or connection with each other and, trying to raise 2 kids. So 4.5 years ago, it was probably, if I wheel it back a little before then, when stuff started happening between us, I had called a friend and talked to her about what I was going through. And we used to go to a home church, and she said, you need to call them. And it was her sister and husband who had the home church. And I was like, no, I was like, I'm not doing it. I can't do this just yet. I'm like, not ready. And I just sat there on the phone with her and sobbed.
Mm.
And then it's probably the second time that I called her when everything was still going on. My husband and I both had sinned throughout our marriage, in our marriage. And I called her and I was sobbing, like ugly crying, I don't even know how she even heard any word out of my mouth crying.
Mm.
And I just said, it's like I look at my life and it's like, what am I doing? Like, is this what I want for me? Is this what I want for my family, my kids? And it's like I went back to those vows I made before God, that it's like I had totally backburnered God, clearly, through it all. And so I just said, okay, I'm gonna call her. This is not who I am. I am a child of God. I am a wife. I am a mother. I committed to this marriage. So I had called her sister and spilled my guts, and she said, does Rick know anything, of how you're feeling and what's been going on with you? And I said, nope, and I don't want to tell him. I said, can't we just work on me and like brush the rust under the rug?
Do we really need to bring him into this whole marriage thing?
Exactly. And I am, I suffer from depression and anxiety. I do not take medication for it, but it's something that when it hits me, it hits hard. And I'm also a high-strung person to an extent. I'm Italian, so telling Rick, I was like, no, I don't want to do this just yet. I'm not ready. But so I walked with them, with the home church that we had gone to previously. And at the time we had already been going to a church in Derry, New Hampshire. And I remember they asked, does your church know? And I said, nope, I don't want to tell them. And I was afraid of, judgment in our marriage. I was afraid of public humiliation type of thing. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just a scary thing. So, it finally came to the point that I needed to stand my ground and just spill my guts, because if I wanted to move forward, it needed to happen. So my husband, I sat down one day and I said, I got to talk to you about us, and kind of spilled everything to him. And, he took a step back and spilled his stuff too. And it was really gut-wrenching and super, super difficult to hear both sides, and, and to not know what that outcome would have brought was very scary, because I wanted to fight for our marriage. And, I was praying that he would too. And he went back to my husband had gone back to a sermon that we had heard where our pastor had always described, sin is sin is sin. Doesn't matter what it looks like, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter whether it's at the bottom of the totem pole or at the top of the totem pole, it's all sin. So we worked with our friends throughout our marriage, counseling, if you want to call it that. They would come over sometimes at 9:00 at night and just sit with us. And, we've really changed and shifted our focus. Instead of being self-centered and selfish, it was really looking at, our marriage being intentional towards each other, not ourselves. And most importantly, putting God above it. It did come to a point that we finally did talk to our church, which I was more than happy when we left that we did, because it wasn't anything that I thought it would have been like. Our church actually had reached out to us. I can't remember how long after we had told them to talk about it a little bit in front of our whole church, and how a lot of people came alongside of us, kind of some people directly and then some people indirectly, which then even afterwards they were like, we had no idea. And we just said, well, we're super thankful for you, because even though you didn't know, you still made a huge impact on us. Yeah, so we've been stronger than ever. Our communication is so much more open and honest, and it's not easy to walk through anything in life. And then, like I said, to get married with no, I don't know, I thought we were good to go when, the pastor was like, oh yeah, I wish I could bottle you guys up. And now it's like, nope, no, no.
She's like, I smashed your bottle. Oh, there are like so many things in that story that, one, just resonate, but two, I just think are powerful reminders for us. A word that comes to mind is community, like the power of community and having people around you. Because I've said this about Andy and I's marriage in the past, that a lot of the saving grace in our marriage at the beginning was not us, but was the people who were so tightly like supporting us that basically were not going to let us fail. Like, even though we probably would have walked, run, whatever, they just came around us. And I almost picture that Moses, when they're holding up, Aaron and them are holding up his arms, that's kind of what it's felt like a lot in marriage, when you don't even know how to fight for your own marriage. Those people who are willing to step in. And
it's so true. I mean, we have now, like, I remember even when we were at our worst, it was like, oh, we have plans to go do this. And I used to say to him, I don't want to go. And he used to say, well, what do you want me to say to them? I'm like, figure it out. Like, say I'm sick. But they were always those people that it's like they would come alongside of us in anything. And now to still have that support and even accountability, where it's like, if I'm doing something even now, he's like, oh, I'm calling your person. And if he's doing something, I say, oh, I'm calling your person. You're in trouble.
It's like telling on each other. I'm calling mom. Yeah. And it sounds like, too, just from your story, to have those people that are patient in your journey. Like you mentioned, like, okay, so this was the next step. Like, I needed to talk to this person, but I wasn't ready. Like, and I was like, nope, not there yet. And what a beautiful picture of like community and support to kind of walk with you in that. Like, because sometimes the journey takes longer than maybe we think it should, or I don't know. I know for me, when we can see our friends struggling and see what they need to do, like our patience level for them to get to that point isn't always what it should be. And realizing like, just because we can see it as clear as day doesn't mean our timeline is going to be their timeline. And what does lovingly and patiently walking with somebody as they kind of journey. Because like you said, there was kind of the realizing yourself, I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to do this. I know who I am, to like the stages of who you tell and kind of opening up all the way to telling your church. At the Mustard Seed Marketplace, they believe that your purchase makes a powerful impact, whether it's providing jobs for overcomers of sex trafficking or supporting small businesses. They want you to be able to shop the causes that you care most about. They're passionate about bringing you on-trend items with a greater purpose. Enjoy shopping their handmade creations from near and far as they create a marketplace for artisans around the globe. They've curated a collection of world-changing jewelry, apparel, handbags, and more for over 40 groups in over 15 countries. And every single item is fair trade, locally made, or give back brands. You can use our code HeyGirl15 for 15% off your entire purchase at themustardseedmarketplace.com. Now, this is a one-time use code. Again, HeyGirl15 for 15% off. Guys, the Mustard Seed Marketplace has so many great options for gift giving. This is the perfect time to start shopping for the holidays. Now, be sure to find them on Facebook and Instagram and check out their website often, as they're always getting new pieces. So once again, that's the mustardseedmarketplace.com. Use our code HeyGirl15 for 15% off your entire purchase. And take this holiday to purchase gifts that make an incredible impact to people all around the globe. That's not a story you hear very often, where people are like, and then I stood up in front of my church. Like, that's a really big deal.
I remember our pastor asked us, and so I said to my husband, I was like, have you gotten the questions yet? Did you look at the questions? We need to screen these questions first.
I need to know. Oh, that's awesome. So obviously you said that was like 4.5 years ago. What are some of the major things that, and I know you mentioned a couple in jest, like now I know who I can, like, well, I can call this person, which as much as we joke, there is power in each of us having accountability and having people that have permission to speak into our marriage, into our families. What are some other things that for you have been difference makers in terms of the health of your marriage, of your family? I know you mentioned better communication. What does that look like?
We communicate a lot, and I think it's also just super intentional with our words. Even, going through our counseling with our friends, when they sat down with us, it was like, you say, I love you to each other, even if you don't want to. Because then it's like, it's still keeping that intentionality through everything, and just really, it's changing your mindset too with everything, that it's like, okay, I don't want to cook for him tonight, but I know it's the right thing I need to do. Being a wife, being in a marriage, like, it's part of it. So everything is super, super intentional. Our words really, trying to bite your tongue at certain times, or for me, being Italian, it's the delivery. I can try to be as nice as pie, but then I open my mouth and it doesn't sound as nice as I think it is.
What do they say? How you say what you say is what you say.
Yeah. Our pastor, when we had met with them, we had then switched and kind of did counseling with our pastor and his wife. He had done like a personality thing. And that was actually super eye-opening to us, to figure out different communication skills. But it actually turned into characters that you got. Have you heard of this?
No.
I can't remember what it's called. I would have to ask him. So I'm a shark. Yes.
It sounds scary.
And my husband's a turtle.
Oh, he hides in his shell.
He hides in his shell, and I go for the jugular.
I was going to say, no offense, but if I was a turtle and a shark came my way, I'd be popping in my shell too.
Yeah. So again, just really understanding, and really working on focusing on the other person's communication. And I don't want to say body language, but like, I know that he needs more of like the softer tone, versus me. I look at him and I'm like, get it out, get it over with, be done with it, black and white, lay it out.
I love it.
Yeah. So now, and especially now, like, we definitely try to take more time to be, strict with bedtime with the kids, so we can have a little bit of time at night to ourselves. Definitely being more intentional about having date nights, even if it's just, coffee, or, some of the people that have come alongside of us, they've taken the kids for a day or even overnight, and we end up just, making dinner and eating here at the house. And that is just...
This is G-rated. We don't need to know. This is a family podcast, Claudia.
Kid-free house. Woohoo!
And then we play checkers. The end.
Yeah, backgammon. Yeah. So it's been awesome. I mean, we still have had, downs too, and stuff always comes up, but it's just really how you're going to handle that and address it versus just, having that fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate so much your willingness to talk about this, because one of the things, so first of all, my husband, Andy, and I got married really young, and as similar to you, some of it for me was definitely youth, just ignorance, going in, being like, oh, well, we never fought when we were dating. Like, I just almost had this fairy tale idea of what I was stepping into. And then it was not that, and it was really hard. And I don't know if this was reality or just my perception, but I felt like nobody talked about that openly, about the hard part of marriage, the first moment that you're like, I don't even like this person.
Right.
There's almost this fear of I don't want to be, I remember thinking, I don't want to be so honest that I scare people away from marriage. And I felt like if I was brutally honest, that's what it would do. And then I realized that some of my own struggle was that I wasn't I wasn't being honest about what was going on. Therefore, I wasn't really working through things. I was trying to fake, like you described, fake it till you make it. And then you're like, okay, this isn't really working. And so I have such a great appreciation when people just talk openly, not in a doom and gloom, marriage is the worst, whatever, but just this, hey, you know what? The reality is marriage is a lot of hard work. And there, like you said, there's ups, there's downs, there's everything in between. And there's beauty in it, but there's also there's pain in marriage. There's hurt. You learn forgiveness and repentance, all of these things. The only other relationship I can compare to is with my own children. I used to joke that if marriage is to refine us, then our children are there to break us. Those are the two most intense relationships I can think of. But I appreciate you sharing, because I just think, of all the people listening, those who are both in marriage relationships and maybe are not yet, but are wrestling with that, trying to imagine what that's going to be. I think if we can keep talking honestly about it, it's going to help people in this journey, because I hate to think that there's a wife or a husband, but we're a girl podcast, so we'll go with wife. There's a wife out there who's wrestling with all of these emotions and feels like there's something wrong with her marriage because it's not all rainbows and unicorns versus.
Oh, yeah. I used to tell my husband all the time, I used to break down and just say, I know it's me. It's always me. I'm always the one with the issue, and in reality, it's no, it's not, it's both of us. And we just have to figure out coming together. And it's I always joke, two ships passing in the night. But it's we're trying to say the same thing, but always just missing the meeting point of it.
Yeah. Well, you think about what is the premise. You're talking about two very broken people entering a relationship inside a broken world. How desperately we need a savior in that to continue to redeem, but also just the natural consequence of all of that coming together. Yeah, there's going to be hard stuff. And at least from my perspective, I do say to people, I'm like, you know what? We're just about to celebrate, actually next week, I think Monday. It's really close. We're celebrating our 18th wedding anniversary. And I was like, you know what? We still have hard stuff, but I can honestly say 18 years in, if you're willing to work through it, as in not just keep shoving it under the rug, but really work through it, it does get better. Like the beauty gets better, the depth gets it, because you're willing to go through the hard stuff. You also get to experience the awesome stuff. And so I would just encourage like listeners who are hearing, if there are people in that place where they're really struggling in their marriage, first of all, you're not crazy. Like it's not all your fault. Like it's hard stuff. And seeking help, like you mentioned, is a big one. I think one hard thing, which we didn't mention, but it's true, is sometimes like one spouse is willing and one is not so willing. And
Yeah.
like,
And I mean, I'm super thankful that, my husband was willing and I was willing, that we were able to come together in that. And again, though, it's like sitting down and even presenting him trying to, work through stuff. It was nerve-wracking because,
yeah,
he didn't have to share his side of stuff and open up on that and be honest. So I was kind of going into it like, oh my gosh, this could be it. Like my marriage could be over right now and I could be single mom, 2 kids, and I wasn't working even at that time. So it was a hard pill to swallow, but I needed to be honest to God, myself, my marriage, my family, that it was like, well, pick up those big girl pants and let's do this.
yeah. Because the truth is, we can only make decisions for ourselves in terms of like our faithfulness, our repentance, our humility. If we're sitting back and waiting to only respond to our spouse's actions, then it's going to be this tug of war all the way to the end. But for us to really submit before God, regardless of our spouse's response, and allow God to lead that. And truthfully, those stories end different ways. Like you have this beautiful story right now. Your husband was willing, he stepped into this, you're married, you have these kids, you're working through things. And some stories don't go that way. Some stories are, you submit to God, you walk with him, and your husband walks, or it doesn't work out. But I honestly believe, regardless of that just being faithful and knowing that God isn't going to walk away regardless of the outcome.
Right.
And really that's what we're pressing into. It's not even like a pressing into our spouse and whatever else. It's like us and God, and, really surrendering, like, okay, God, however this turns out, I'm going to hand it to you. And I want to be who you want me to be in the midst of this. So
I had to put full trust in God in it. And, like I said, I'm super thankful because here I am 4.5 years later and our marriage is stronger and better than it ever has been. And we've been able to walk through stuff with other couples in our church and outside of our church. So it's been, people used to always say like your story will someday, help somebody else. And I used to laugh and I'm like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Because that's how you always feel in life with anything.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like you never have anything perfect. And then it's funny because, especially during COVID, having those people walk into our lives during this time, a lot of people are home, and it's like it can change things in different aspects of your marriage and stuff. So it's been great to be able to walk through a few people and their marriage stuff too, and help them through it.
I love that God doesn't waste our pain. I just think that is something that I often cling to. Not that I always say, like, in a heartbeat, I'd trade it out. Like, I don't want to walk through this suck. But I mean,
you don't like to be in pain.
I don't. It's not my fave. It's not my fave. I mean, like getting tattoos, maybe, but like other than that. But the fact that God in his goodness, like doesn't just leave that to waste, that it doesn't matter, that he'll often take those things and redeem them, even in this time, in this side of eternity. And it doesn't always happen that way, but when it does, it's such a beautiful thing to see. So you mentioned this, but COVID. So here we are, right? Like Oh my word. Who'd have
Isn't it
thought?
awesome?
Oh my, I don't even know. There's so many things that I feel like I have never in my life lived in a time where there's so many words that if you just say a word, you can fire up a whole slew
Oh,
of
yeah.
people. It's insanity. But you, wife and mama, you're in this kind of new season with this, right? You mentioned it. You're homeschooling.
Yep.
Just as we kind of get to the end of this, I want to know, because we talk about running your race in your place. What is
Yeah.
this looking like for you right now? And what's God showing you?
Oh, so, I mean, my kids were in school up until what, March? So, we did the whole remote learning thing. And, I used to drop them off at school and then go to the gym. And that was kind of my time, and grocery shopping. And, then everything shut down. We did remote learning, got through the summer. My husband has been working from home, which I'm super thankful that he's working and still has his job. Praise God. So then when it became time for like school stuff to come about again and them going back, we definitely were not going to send them back in person. Personally, I did not like the fact that my kids would be in a mask all day long. That kind of terrified me. Just, I don't know. I couldn't imagine sending them like that.
You just had to say one of the words, Claudia. You just had to throw a mask.
Just deal with it.
Send your comments to Claudia at, no, just kidding.
And I feel like this was always like, nobody has like a right or wrong answer. We have plenty of friends that send their kids, and that's great. And that's fine. We also did give our kids every option, because then I said, all right, we could do just remote learning and they would still just be home.
Right.
But it became like 2 weeks before school was supposed to start, and I still hadn't gotten any information on any remote learning stuff.
Oh.
So that panicked me, because again, I am a shark. I am a planner. I want all my ducks in a row so I can eat them one by one. Totally kidding.
No, you're not.
Maybe a little. So it was, we always kind of talked about homeschooling. We go to church with a bunch of people that do homeschooling. My sister homeschooled my niece and nephew from 3rd grade to 8th grade. So I was like, you know what? Like, forget it. Let's just take this into our own hands, and we're going to figure this out. And again, we still sat down with the kids and talked about everything. And if my kids said that they wanted to go in person, I would have let one or both of them go.
Right. And
we would have figured it out. But they said, no, let's homeschool. So I said, great. And then I said, I don't know what I'm doing. So I reached out to my sister. I talked to tons of people at church. My daughter goes to a dance school that she homeschools both of her kids, who are my kids' age. So I met with her, and we just, figured it out and said, all right, let's do this. So I sent my letter of intent to the superintendent's office.
Yep.
And, Mike dropped and said, boom, you don't need to know anything about me anymore.
Thank you, New Hampshire.
Yes, exactly. So now we've been homeschooling. I am so thankful my husband is still home, because I certainly have had days where my blood is boiling past the point of return, that, whether it's either whatever they're learning about that I can't figure out, or they're just not getting it, and I don't know how else to explain it, that then I'm like, go ask daddy. I'm like, I'm done for the day.
Yes.
So that's been good. Or I take a parent-teacher conference and I take a bubble bath.
Oh my gosh. That needs to be mothers listening. Parent-teacher conference, AKA bubble bath. I love it.
I've totally done that, where I shut the door and then I can hear the kids. Where's mom? My husband will say, mom is getting her own time. Leave her alone.
You need to put like a parent-teacher conference sign on the bathroom door. Sorry, you're going to have to schedule your time.
And And there's no available time.
Yeah. And there's no available.
Yeah. So it's been, I wake up really early to go to the gym. So that's changed. I'm not a morning person. I'm like mid-afternoon person, and I could totally be a night owl, but that's changed too, because now I go to bed super early so I can wake up super early.
What's your gym hour?
Oh gosh, I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And
Bless
so
you.
sometimes I say a double. I do kickboxing. So sometimes I'll go lift weights and then I'll do kickboxing. Otherwise, I'll just do one or the other. But I try to be home so that way I don't put all the pressure on my husband either, because he is working and I'm home. Cleaning doesn't always get done as I'd like. And, thankfully my kids' activities have picked back up. So my daughter does competitive dance. My son plays hockey, which hockey's like, I don't know, 3 to 5 times a week sometimes. So,
wow.
We make it work, and it's been really good. Like I said, we have good weeks, we have bad weeks. You can see, nobody else can see. I just say, you can see.
Yes.
Yes.
The cage behind
listener.
you.
Yeah.
Is there a child in it?
There might be one day. I bought the kids a hamster, so they have a little class pet. So that's been fun for them to do. And
most people did COVID puppies and you went COVID hamster.
No, we tried our hand at dogs and it failed every time. Yes. Unless if I can borrow Fenway, I'll take Fenway.
Fenway is the sweetest. She's sleeping.
She's so good.
She's sleeping on the floor over here. Yeah, Fenway makes me want to have another puppy. And then I remembered how long it took me to train Fenway. And then I'm like, nope, peace out. This is why I know I won't get married a second time. Same thing. I love it now, but no, we are not starting over.
He finally puts the toilet seat down, picks his boxers up off of the bathroom floor.
The fact that he edits this, I'm so sleeping on the couch. Honey, you are not like a golden doodle.
What's that cage behind you for, Bethany?
Yeah, you know what? Not important. Moving right along. There's a reason this is an audio. Oh, too funny. So in the midst of all of this, homeschooling, everything else, how do you feel like for your relationship with God, like where does that, I don't like saying fit in, but like, how do you continue to invest in that when you have kids at home, your husband's working from home, there's a hamster crawling up the cage? Not really. Don't freak out, but
I just had a look.
He's coming down.
I think especially right now with COVID and elections and, you have people who are extremely nervous with COVID who, they go out and it's like gloves, shield, mask. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm afraid to even like look at you. Like I think some days it's really hard to trust God through all this, but I keep, even with all the election stuff, when that was thrown into it, I kept telling my husband, you know what, it doesn't matter what happens because God is in control. For me, I've been trying to continue to stay faithful in devotions for sure. Church, we were able to do at least, Facebook streaming for a while, and we did that with the kids. Sometimes that was hard too. To stay connected with that when it's like, oh, I see my pile of dishes over there. I'm still listening,
Yep.
Devotions is huge, and connection with still those key people in my life. That it's like, I have one friend who super well who works for you.
She's the best.
Totally dropping it. But like her and I are on, we always say a period basis where it's like, we can text each other, even just a period punctuation mark. And it's like, girl, I'm praying for you. And, so I'm super thankful for that, but definitely devotions. I've restarted doing Bible studies again every week. That is like, I love love Bible studies. So that's been awesome. And honestly, I pray throughout my day and everything I do just to help keep me level-headed and grounded. So even if I'm folding the laundry, it's like, okay, God, like I'm starting to feel like anxiety because it's like, the kids come upstairs every 5 seconds. Mom, I need you. Mom, I need you. It's like, I'm just trying to fold one piece of underwear for you have tomorrow.
Do you want your panties or not? Get downstairs.
Yeah, exactly. So, I really try to stay focused on prayer every morning too. With the kids, we pray before school starts just to kind of help give us that mindset. Like, okay, we're starting our day. Let's pray. And we listen to a lot of music. I love music. So, well, right now we listen to Christmas music.
Yeah, you do. I knew I liked
Christmas.
you.
I love Christmas. But otherwise, we listen to KLF radio, even during school time, that it's like, okay, it just helps keep just a calm sense during the day.
That's awesome. All right, Claudia, before I let you go, there's one super important question that I feel like I have to ask you. You should just emotionally prepare yourself. Okay. What is your favorite Christmas album of all time?
Like a movie or a song?
No, like song, album as in like, I want to say CD, but we don't buy CDs anymore.
I know. Yeah. Oh gosh. I really like all of it. I love Karen Carpenter Christmas music.
Okay.
I like old Christmas music. I
love it.
There's a few Michael Bublé songs, but I really like the Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra era of Christmas music.
I love that. I'm not going to lie. I literally just about asked you if you listen to Michael Bublé because I love the old school Christmas, but man, he puts on a suit and sings those old school Christmas and he gets on the list for me.
Absolutely. Definitely. But yeah, I'm more of an old school girl with that stuff.
Perfect. Well, Claudia, this has been lovely and so nice to hear your story, get to know you more.
It's been great. Thanks for having me.
I know the reality of the world that we live in, that we are only like a half an hour apart, maybe.
Yeah.
And here we are on Zoom because, Rona.
Rona.
I'm pretty sure I don't have it, but like I like to tell everyone, like maybe. You never know.
You never know.
You never know. You never know. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been awesome.